YouTube, all the bells and whistles. I'm Chris Grimes. I'm the curator and host of the Good Listening To Show. Welcome to a very special founder story episode where together we're going to get into the who, the what, the how, the why you do what you do, and then crucially we'll find out where, and very much we'll go into the why, but we'll find out where we can come and find you. And to welcome to the show Naru Landscaping. This is the father and son horticultural dream team of Nathan and Ruben Millett from Naru Landscaping. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How's morale? How's your day going so far? Because you've left a job to come here now, haven't you?
Yep. So we've left one of the other lads, Jake, behind just to carry on some work so we could come out. We've had a brief coffee beforehand so we could have a little chat before.
Lovely.
But we're
to
ready go.
You've done some prep. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, there's a name to conjure. It's wonderful, the name. So let's just start from founding principles of how you got going and how you have become Naru Landscaping. Is it a Japanese cultural thing or not? Because it sounds a bit sort of ikigai or wabi-sabi. But Naru Landscaping, just tell us the story behind the story of how you both got going as your father and son horticultural dream.
There is a Japanese element to it, but that was by pure accident. So we've both got our versions of the story of how we got to a point in a pub where we were talking about future careers, and then we came up with what we were going to do next in our lives.
And it was a very pivotal time in your life, particularly because of where you were coming from, and then your two worlds were meeting because of an imperative of I suppose, a mental health agenda. So just the wonderment of what you do at Naru Landscaping. I mean, it's wellness gardens for professionals suffering with stress, and it's a bit like you'd been there and got the T-shirt. So just tell us the story.
Yeah. So Ruben, you're going to start the story, aren't you? So we're going to both tell our story to the point where we were sat in that pub. So he's going to go first.
Yeah. So my grandparents used to own a garden centre. So since I was about 14, I've been doing handyman work and that.
Yeah,
which got me on the tools. So then when I left school, I went into electrical course, and a couple of years down the line, I found out that wasn't really my thing. So then weirdly, I switched to being an estate agent, which was a bit of a sudden change. But then also a year after doing that, I realised it wasn't really for me. So then I went to go back on the tools.
That's such a great expression, by the way. That got me on the tools. That's such a wonderful craftsman thing.
Yeah, I did miss having a tool in my hand, but so then I was about 6 months later, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do, and then that got to us in the pub, didn't it?
And timeline wise, this is before the pandemic, during the pandemic, where are we?
This is after. So now up to that point is beginning of last year.
So it's about sort of March time, wasn't it then?
Yeah.
And you got you to the pub, and then who opened up the dialogue of what the fuck we're going to do now?
So that was kind of me, because he hasn't done himself enough justice there. When he was younger, he was really, really good at hands-on creating anything. My wife showed me a picture the other day that I didn't realize we had. How old are you in that picture?
Which one?
We were unloading a ton bag.
Oh, I was about 8, I think.
He's about 8 years old.
Unloading a tan bag or a ton?
A ton bag of stone. So it's some gardening that I was doing at my own house at the time.
Well, I was the same height as a ton bag.
Yeah.
So
I'm beginning to speak landscaping now. Yeah, we're talking about ton bags.
Yeah. The big bulk bags full of stone.
Love that bulk bag.
And actually, I think I'm stood over watching you at the time. But he's as high as this ton bag and is unloading it all out. So he's very always been willing to get stuck in and into doing something with his hands and problem solving. And then I think you were about 15. You built an outdoor kitchen.
Yeah, I was about 14, 15.
Yeah. So I had a hand injury at the time that I'd got from work, what I was doing at work then. So I couldn't really do anything, but I had this idea of what I was going to build an outdoor kitchen.
Yeah.
So 14?
Yeah, I was about that. I didn't really see where I picked up the basics from that, because I always remembered learning off of you a little bit.
And what a dream apprenticeship, as in, the father-son thing is, trust is there, the apprenticeship is there, you've learned from the master, the master's now learning from you.
Yeah.
We know that's the truth. which is the natural order of things.
Yeah.
When the son becomes the daddy.
So yeah, so that's kind of to the point in the pub. And then I'm a bit older, so my story is a little bit longer how I got to that. So first of all, why landscaping? My grandparents had a very, very large garden. So they had a typical post-war council house in Broomhill in South Bristol. And they're very lucky at that time where they left people with 50-foot long gardens that you could do quite a bit with.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. So I was brought up with my grandparents growing their own vegetables, tomatoes in the greenhouse and things like that. Over there for a roast dinner every Sunday. Other than the meat that came from the local butcher, everything else came out of their garden. So that's where I spent all of my time. If it wasn't raining, I was out in their garden, climbing trees, helping my grandpa build stuff. I can remember he used to give me a block of wood and a box of nails and just like literally do your best.
And you'd make a Pinocchio or something.
I remember I made a ship.
Oh, wow.
So I had different height nails going along for the sail, and then made a sort of railings at the front, that type of thing. So I think I was always a little bit creative.
Yeah.
So that was the start of me, why I'm into gardens and gardening. And
so it's in your DNA, green
Yeah.
fingers and being outdoors and getting stuck into the tools and the ground.
yeah.
And then you took a different career choice, which I know we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So then, much later on, my first career was an attempt at professional rugby. At the time, I've always thought in my head that got cut short because of a knee injury. But actually, as I've got older, I realised I just didn't have the right mindset to put the effort in to make it work.
So you're waiting for the knee injury to give up, were you?
Yeah, I think possibly somewhere in the back of my head, yeah.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out. So then I bounced around a few different jobs. Ended up doing labouring for a load of mates at Cambridge Rugby Club, where I went back to playing rugby. And I got to the point where I thought, this is what I want to do. I didn't know exactly which trade at that point. Because I've been helping out plumbers, builders, carpenters, stonemasons, all just labouring for them. So I knew I wanted to do a trade. So it got to that point where I thought, I know what firemen do, is they do a trade on their days off.
Yeah.
So I had this plan with a friend of mine that we'd both try and join the fire brigade and then start a building company. Oddly enough, he's now got a successful building company, but never bothered to try and join the fire brigade. But I did, and I didn't get in because I had 3 points on my driving license at the time.
Awkward.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, this is what I've always thought, they just had a big career drive and were looking for reasons to sift out numbers, people, and points on a driving license was one way.
Yes.
That's what I'm clinging to.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it means I wasn't good enough to be a fireman. So that got me onto the thought process of some sort of uniform role. And I can remember a careers teacher when I was at school pinned me with, you're going to be in the military, police or fire brigade, and you're not going to be much else. So yeah, that's what school was like back then.
What an awesome teacher. Will he be one of your inspirations? I don't think so.
No, not at all. So that's what I had in the back of my head always anyway. So didn't get into fire brigade. Then went on holiday over to Portugal, got into a very, very minor car accident. Just someone went out the back of us, no injury. But the police come out to all of their car accidents over there.
Yeah.
I didn't have my passport on me. So they said, well, we need ID. So they send my wife back to where we were staying to go and get my passport. They take me to the police station and just sit me in the front office there. So I'm there bored, sat waiting for my passport to come back. And I can hear a noise that I'm familiar with. And it's like the clanging of weights in a gym. So I'm looking around trying to think, well, where's this gym? And I realize it's in two-way glass behind me. So I started looking and I can see they've got this huge gym. And there's like clearly police officers all in there training. And then in front of me, a load of new recruits come in and they all get given massive kit bags full of brand new kit. So for me, I'm sat there thinking that's the closest thing to rugby I'm going to find.
Yes, but this is in Portugal.
This is in Portugal.
So you didn't join the Portuguese police force?
No, that probably would have been nicer. So I came back and had this idea, right, I didn't get the fire brigade, so I'll try the police. Filled out the application form, and I think very lucky that, again, they were on a big recruitment drive, and the process to get in had slimlined compared to what it was. And 3 months later, I'm sat day one as a police officer. Thinking, how did I get here?
And did you get an awesome kit bag? And no.
Not for a while. No. That dream actually never really happened of what I thought it would be. But yeah, there I was.
And there is that idea of, or the philosophy of, what's meant for you won't pass you by. So whichever doors are opened or shut, the window of opportunity that opened for you, to confuse doors and windows in the conservatory of life, there you are in the police force.
Yes. Yeah.
And then,
which happened quite quickly.
Yes.
So I'm sat with people who had been waiting 2 years for their start date. Now, I'll be honest, if I'd waited 2 years, I'd have given up on that dream.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't really a dream. I'd have just given up on it and think, I'll do something else. So I felt a little bit guilty because people have been desperate to do this career and waited 2 years for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, it's just something I filled out.
And you've got your careers officer's sort of mantra,
yeah,
rightly or wrongly, chuntering away in the back of your head.
Yeah, there's that background voice of, this is all you're going to be. So that's how I ended up in the police.
I'm so happy we're in a position of all you are becoming and all you have become now, because it is, I know we're going to get on to, I hope I'm not stealing any thunder from the structure that I'm about to pull you through.
No.
So this is all good.
Good. This is just me getting to that pub.
No, that's great.
Yeah. So I then have 20-year police career, which has great and some terrible bits. So I ended up doing some specialist units, so firearms being one of them, another one called support group, which no one really knows what that means, but
you're going to tell us now.
I'm going to try and keep it simple. So support group is the specialist units that you see in vans on newsreels, where they're out searching murder scenes, so all types of searching, crime scenes, missing persons, all your drugs warrants and things like that. We were the team that did specialist entry, so door entry, window entry, which why I smiled when you said doors and windows open for me. Yeah,
got forcibly.
Got to the point where I forced them open.
Yeah.
Those types of things, and then some other slightly more specialist bits where we did body recovery. So if a body has been there a certain amount of time and becomes difficult to recover, then that was one of the roles that we did, and also something called disaster victim identification. So that is, as it sounds, something horrendous happens with lots of casualties that become difficult to recover.
Yeah.
And then we do those bits. So through that journey and some of those roles, I ended up with PTSD from that, which did take a very long time to realize that I had that. But then that brought my police career to an end.
As in, it had to. It wasn't the knee injury you're waiting for. This was something popping off.
The knees were fine at that point. So yeah, it got to the point where, over years, lots and lots of counselling, and got to the point where they said, "There's not much more we can do for you." And a psychiatrist that they sent me to said, "The best thing for you to do is leave."
Great advice. Unlike that career, I mean, the career officer got you to the right place ultimately. But the wrong place too.
Yeah. So it ended on it's kind of a negative note, but it's not, because I'm here now.
Yes.
So everything happens.
And the right way up.
Everything happens for a reason, doesn't it?
Yes.
So that's how we ended up us together. So leaving the police. So sorry if I struggle. Some of it gets a bit difficult. So I do come with a warning, may cry sometimes. So end of the police career, I did have a very brief another career, which I do feel like I know.
Not an estate agent, I'm assuming.
No, I'd be terrible at that.
Bit different to that.
Yeah.
We'll get you talking more in a moment as well. This is awesome, though.
I almost feel like I owe this person an apology, and he is my golden baton person as well. So a guy called Matt Shepherd, who was my rugby coach when I was at Keynsham, so a good friend. He at that point ran a company called Switch Rugby that do rugby coaching to get players ready for elite level pathways into the likes of Bristol Bears, those types of things.
Yeah.
He also did mentoring in schools for children that maybe a little bit had some sort of neurodiversity and needed just that little bit of help around school, and kind of mentor voice to say everything's, well, all I ever used to say is school's not as important as you think it is. There's a big life out there to learn stuff afterwards, so don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Great advice.
That was kind of my message to all of them. So I had that for a very brief moment, and I'm always thankful for Matt for giving me that opportunity at a point where I suddenly didn't have a career.
What's his second name again?
Matt Shepherd.
Matt Shepherd.
So he's my golden button. So we'll get
onto that as well.
Onto him later on. So he'd not long given me that job, and very much involved me in the future, the direction of the company, for which I had some ideas. And then we're in the pub.
And what's the pub? Where's the pub?
The White Hart, Bridge 8. So there is a corner, and I've said this to the lady who runs the pub last week. That is the Naru corner.
Because got to get a little platform.
Yeah, we need one, don't we?
Yeah. And we think that's the Japanese philosophy corner at this point.
Yeah,
that's
it has
the
to be
Naru
now.
Right.
So we got, that's the day. So he's had enough of the estate agency role. Realised
from day one.
Realised it wasn't for him, and he probably doesn't know this bit, but he. So he
prior alert.
handed his notice in without really any other plan, did you?
Yeah, I was going a bit blind. I handed my notice in. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yes.
Nice, good company, Bristol Property Centre. They were good.
Big shout out.
Yeah, just down the road as well. Yeah, they were a good company, but it was just the career choice wasn't the best one.
It makes total sense. It was very lovely of you to give them a shout out.
Yeah.
And actually, that does show some of his good qualities as well. So that is a family friend, BPC in Ash, who runs it.
Yeah.
And he showed some interest in estate agency, and I said, "Well, let's speak to Ash." Ash said, "Yeah, come along and just ask some things." So he went along to ask about the industry. How do I get into it? And came away with a job.
Yeah,
so
a bit unexpected.
Yeah.
What? Oh shit.
So it says a lot about his character.
Yeah.
And what type of person he is to go along to ask about a career and come away with it.
Yes.
So yeah, well done to you.
The integrity going on, and also the pride you have, Nathan, for Ruben is really clear.
Now and again.
Well, I think it's there. We can all see
it is there.
So we're at the pub.
So we're at the pub, and I've thought, right, I need to take him up to the pub and have a proper father-son chat now, which is the bit he probably didn't realise. Because I in my head, he's had a career, not a career, a job, and he's gone and sort of jacked it in to go back to where he wanted to be, but with no route to it. So he wanted to go back on the tools. It wasn't going to be electrics because that ended up not being his thing. And then something went in the back of my head of, So when I was in the police, I'd always kept up bits of gardening, family and friends. So the landscaping doesn't come out of nowhere. It's something that had always been going on.
It's in your DNA. You described that because the garden centre.
There's a period about 4 years. Me and what was my best friend from the police, Leon. I'll give him a shout as well. So me and him had a landscaping business together that we did on our rest days. So I almost got back to.
What was that one called?
Neon Landscaping.
See, that's not as magical as Naru now. We'll get into that.
It's closer, isn't it?
Yeah, he's closer.
But that name came from the fact that me and him were so inseparable on the teams we were on that everyone just called us Neon. So not Nathan and Leon, they just called us because we're always together all the time.
Yes.
So we had a landscaping business that had to stop because we got too busy and then got moved onto different teams.
Yes.
Opposing shift patterns. So we're never off together. So So I thought the landscaping ship had sailed until I decided he needs a father-son chat about what you're going to do with your life type thing. And then this little light bulb went off in the back of my head of, oh, we could do landscaping together. And I kind of mentioned it to my wife, and she said, don't force that on him because you want to do it.
Yeah.
Let that happen naturally. Just go and have a word with him. So this is the bit. He's oblivious. No, he heard beer. I'm like, yeah, I'll come along.
Yeah. They're in a pub, I was like, all right.
All right, Joe, yeah, go on then.
So I kind of almost started the father-son conversation a little bit bull in a china shop, almost not quite there. Not what my wife told me to do, basically. I just kind of went, what are you going to do with your life? What are you doing, you idiot? So jacked his job in. He then got
a packet of crisps and a slab.
Yeah, almost, yeah.
Sat in the chair like, whoa.
Exactly. And that's the reaction I got from him. It was a bit like, oh.
Easy, Tiger.
Yeah. You know, he got a little bit sort of down on himself then. It was a bit like, oh, I don't know what we do. So then I couldn't wait for the moment any longer. So I just said, what about me and you doing a landscaping business?
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah. So the yeah was so confident that I was like, yeah, this is another meant to be moment. And then within half an hour, just sat on our phones, we had a name and a logo.
Boom.
Yeah. So we put Nathan and Ruben's, put the two names together, Naru. So that's where that's actually come from. The Japanese connection was so many people asked us, well, what does that stand for? It sounds
awesome.
Yeah, it sounds exotic of some sort. So then you Googled it,
I
didn't
Googled
you?
it, yeah. And it's Japanese for new beginnings, which was, we were like, oh, perfect.
And then there's the Nigerian connection where it means growth and becoming something new.
There we go.
I Googled that this morning,
Yeah,
and I was happily blown away for you both.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, what's so lovely. You had the neon as to let's put our names together, see what we come up with. There could be some comedy disasters if you had the wrong names.
Yeah, no.
I did have some in my mind, but too rude. But anyway, Naru's great. We'll talk about that after the show. But yes, so it's Nathan and Ruben.
Yeah.
But Naru, but it does sound philosophical. And what's so lovely about it now, it's addressing mental health. So just tell us the real essence of what Naru landscaping is about.
So it's not just wellness gardens we do. So I just got to get that out there. We do, you know, your standard landscaping that people need. Yeah, you know, we do that. But our niche is come from my background, his background through lockdown. I think you found that fairly difficult without realising it.
Well, anyone my age struggled a bit during lockdown because I was the year where we missed out on our GCSEs.
Yes, so you're 21 now.
Yeah. So that did me a lot of favours for my GCSEs, which I'll admit. But obviously, some people didn't get what they wanted. But yeah, it was quite a stressful time because no one knew what was going on, especially with school and exams. But after that, it was quite fun after that. Really.
And the big fat yes for you is immediate too, as in you just had this instinct of this is meant to be.
Yeah.
And then, what's so lovely is what you're doing.
So then the wellness part came from the fact that I just thought, I don't want to just be a landscaping business because there's loads of them and loads of good ones as well. So we just kind of thought, well, what can we do slightly different? So I'd done a online landscape design course, and I took from that. It was a good course. The principles of landscape design are generally based on the focus being on the space and a little bit of the people. So I just thought, well, I want to flip it around. I want the focus to be on the people, and then we'll make that fit the space. So that's where the idea of wellness gardens come from. So I kind of thought, well, it can't just be wishy-washy. I'm just going to do your wellness garden. It needs a backbone of some design principles. So I spent a lot of evenings sat down thinking, right, if those are the design principles for normal landscape design, what's the people-focused wellness version? So that's where we've now got our 10-point design system.
Yeah.
That focuses on how can this space make a person feel better through experiences I've had that have got me through a difficult time, and I leaned very heavily on nature and the views around me, and that was a massive help. So that's a large chunk of where our design system has come from.
And may I ask, have you curated your own Naru landscape in where you live and what's immediately in your garden?
I have the typical landscaper's garden that is a pile of clay that is unfinished.
It's a building site.
I do
Very
have,
therapeutic.
Yeah, I do have a walled front courtyard that goes into our front door that I have turned into that.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then that's where I spend most of my thinking time, is out in that space. I've got, bamboo blowing in the winds. I've got a wind chime behind me, which he takes the mick at me for, and I can hear birds. When I can't hear the traffic on the road, I can hear birds singing away, and that's my reset.
And in the other work that I do as a facilitator and a coach, my coaching nudge to you is, whatever you do, make sure you curate someday your own dreamscape, because that's what you deserve.
That is the plan for the back garden.
Yeah,
but
not yet.
I've got
too busy running a business.
I've got to see the family at some point as well. So
yes.
I can't do my own garden on the weekends.
And talking about running your own business, we have the Entrepreneurs Circle in common too. We're both part of the Bristol-based group, and I'm working with Nigel Bottrell at the HQ as well, in his inner circle. So we have that in common as well, because obviously you're here to talk about, as a founder story, for those watching, to work out where we can come and find you, to look at your wonderful work, and indeed and what's your reach in terms of where you're doing your landscaping.
So we're Bristol and Bath, and then the surrounding areas. So we touch a little bit of Somerset, Bath and northeast Somerset, down to Portishead, and then up around Thornbury, around that way. So there's a reasonable distance around Bristol and Bath.
Lovely. And you qualify for a founder story, but also best of Bristol voices, because we're local, which is awesome.
Because we've got Bristol voices.
You have.
Yeah.
So it should be Naru landscape here,
Yeah.
as opposed to, I won't do the Japanese thing because that'll be misconstrued. Anyway, but great stuff. So anything else you'd like to say about the genesis of it before I get you on the open road? And I'm loving this, by the way, and now I'm going to take you through the structure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We're ready, yeah.
So this is the show in which I invite movers, makers, shakers, mavericks, influencers, and also personal heroes into a clearing or serious happy place of my guests' choosing. There's going to be, as usual, if you've not seen the show before, where have you been? I've done about 250 of these monkeys, and it's going to involve a clearing a tree, a lovely juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's going to be some alchemy, some gold, a couple of random squirrels, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, a golden baton, which you've already mentioned, thank you, and a cake. So it's all to play for. And thank you for doing the pre-work, which you said you'd done. Thank you. Not testing you, but now I'm going to test you. So Naru landscaping, Nathan, Ruben, what is, and I don't mind, you've probably got two different ones, that's the idea, but where is a clearing or serious happy place for you?
Well, we're both the same, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's Portugal. We've been on holiday there every year since, well, for you before I was born, but ever since then it's just a place. It's like our second home, really. It's lush.
And do you have a second home there, or that's the dream?
That would be a dream. So no, it's a villa that's within the family that we've got access to. So that's why we've always gone there.
I'm so glad I met you. I'm kidding. So, and that's lovely too, the immediate agreement. Oh yes, we both belong there. So I think you belong together in what it's a bit cheesy, 1 + 1 = 3 in terms of what you're creating as well.
Yeah.
But I love that. Without even questioning, you share the same clearing. So pinning a ponytail in a mat, whereabouts in Portugal is our clearing?
So ours is slightly different because mine comes from a slightly different angle. But whereabouts does yours be?
Well, mine's in Valdelobo, which is if anyone knows, it's in like next to Cortera and Villamore sort of area, which is a lush place right on the beach. And the best bit is the beach bar as well. That's a nice place.
Yeah.
We both enjoy that.
Definitely.
I like that. We both enjoy that. That's good too. So beer is a currency that you both share as well, or whatever it was you were drinking on the night in the pub.
Yeah.
Lovely. So that's your answer. And then what's the different angle?
My when you say happy place to me, that is something that was part of my counselling journey, is that they take you to a happy place that they can take you back to when they make you cry your eyes out and things like that. So that's why I've had to come up with my happy place. So mine is very, very specific. It's sat in a certain place, and the view that I can see is a bit of wall a bit of a cactus plant, and then the sky. So it's very basic. That's me, really.
Yeah.
And obviously someday in your curated dreamscape of your own, you must create or recreate that vista.
Every time I go there. So I sit at the end of the garden, and you can see a bit of wall, this one plant that sticks out over all of it, and the blue sky. So 3 or 4 different colors, and that's simple enough for me. That is a complete reset place that I can take myself to. But it's come from the counselling journey that they asked me, where is your happy place?
Yeah.
And then it gets very in depth. What does it sound like? What does it smell like? So when you say, what's your happy place? That's where I am. And I can hear it, smell it, and see it. It's amazing.
That's such a great answer to what is your happy place. When were you last at your happy places? I appreciate it could be painful when you have to go there, if you have to, but also it could be a tranquility place. So when were you last there in your bar?
Well,
last year.
Yeah, it was this time last year.
Yeah.
We'll be there again in 2 weeks as well.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward
Fantastic.
to it. Yeah.
And a good way for planning pleasant events is a resilient strategy. Always make sure you've got something to look forward to. So 2 weeks time.
Yeah.
And how about you in terms of your clearing when you were last there?
So that was last year as well. Yeah, this time last year. Yeah. So looking forward to 2 weeks time, and I can sit back. He's going to know why now. I'm sat on my own right in that spot, just staring.
And is it in the new narrow corner, the new Naru corner?
Yeah,
could be,
that's the abroad one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have an hour in every country in the world as your dream house, your country houses open up all over the country.
Yeah.
That's living the dream.
Yeah.
So welcome to your clearing. I'm now going to arrive with a tree in your clearing, and sorry if I knock over your cactus.
Yeah.
Awkward. And now we plunge the tree into the sand, and then this is a bit, because of my acting background, a bit Waiting for Godot-esque, a bit existential, a bit Samuel Beckett-y. But anyway, I'm going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. How'd you like these apples? You can have an apple each if you want. Don't eat them because they're false. And then this is now your wonderful answers to a construct. Juicy on the tree, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 minutes to have thought about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, and the 1 is a quirky or unusual fact about you. So over to you. It's not a memory test. I'll curate you through it. But what would you say the 4 things are that have shaped you? And you can interpret who answers what.
We've split them. We've gone for 2 each.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Go on then.
So 2 things that have shaped me is obviously the amount of different jobs I've had. They're all fairly similar other than the estate agents. That's shaped me through like meeting new different types of people in all of them. So like the garden centre I've got and I've met, it's all mainly older people and that, and I've learned how to speak to people through there.
Yeah.
And then when I was being an electrician, I learned to speak to people on site and just meeting the different backgrounds and stuff. So that's shaped me. And also rugby as well. That's played a huge part in.
You haven't said that yet. You've got that in common too.
Yeah. So I started rugby from, it was quite a young age, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When it was touch rugby. I was about 6. And then I moved schools, which changed my sport. So then all my friends, when I moved schools, were playing football. So I played that for a little bit and then went back to rugby when I was about 14. And ever since then, it's sort of, can't go without it really. Sort of, it's almost like a big stress reliever at the end of the day. And
and this is a compliment to you both, but you play in different default positions within the rugby.
Yeah. Obviously, you played at a bit of a bigger level than me. But,
rude.
not size-wise, no. I played scrum half, but as more fullback now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fairly different positions, but it's quite similar.
That's lovely 2 shapeages to get you off the open prep. Unless that was 2. I'm doing the maths on my own structure there. Thank you very much.
So we actually had the chance to play alongside each other a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, it was about 2 seasons ago.
Whilst my knees could still carry me round on a rugby pitch, you played scrum half, I played fly half. So we got a nice picture afterwards of the father and son in the same team. It was really nice, wasn't it?
That was fun,
This is a bit random, but you don't know someone called Lee Millard, do you? He's my gym instructor and he plays a lot of rugby and is very, very involved in helping youth with rugby. Anyway,
No.
Dan, my podcast editor, get rid of that bit. That was a totally random question. Anyway, but it's the Bristol scene of rugby. Wonderful. So now to you and your 2 shapeages.
So mine is family. So grandparents, we touched on that already. So and my grandpa as well, he could make anything out of anything. Yeah, his entire I mean, his garden used to be like a new build estate of sheds, because he just built a shed every time he needed to store something else. He built a table saw out of a washing machine engine. It was the most dangerous thing you've ever seen, because the saw couldn't go up and down to be.
He accidentally chopped your nana's leg off.
Yeah. So he used the motor that turned the drum to turn a saw,
Wow.
and then just made the tabletop.
And then would use it as a utility tool.
Yeah, that was his power tool to cut stuff up. And my grandma kind of started to introduce me to plants, flowers, how to set a garden out, that type of thing. Although,
what a dream team that Nan and Grandad do. One's doing the tools made out of random shit.
Yeah, they were.
And then your Nan's giving you the horticultural stuff.
Yeah. So that gave me a start. And then my parents have been a big influence as well. So the bits of design, or I was going to say flair, but that's talking myself up a bit too much. The interest in design and the way I look at things.
Go with flair. I like it.
Comes from my mum.
Yeah.
She's always both of them always done houses up. So when I was brought up, I was always in amongst rubble. Yeah, smashing walls down as a young kid, and I didn't really build them back up at that age. I just broke stuff. So I've always been in and around the renovation of houses, and my mum was very good at theming rooms, what colours go together, theme a garden, and then she had obviously learnt from her mum about planting and that sort of thing. So I was always around that. So that was kind of my upbringing.
You're such a living testament to we are the sum of all of our stories.
Yeah.
Your conditioning and your path to now, your journey to now, is really clear.
Yeah,
because of your conditioning.
The other big influence is my dad. Really hard worker. He left the RAF after a couple of years. I think he was a little bit in trouble now and again as well. But he left the RAF after a couple of years, and he started off at a well, it wasn't a computer company then. It was like a cabling data company.
Yeah,
way back, a long time ago, way back when. And so he started off, I want to say almost at the bottom, but somewhere around this kind of worker level for that job.
There was an old cabling company in Bristol called Telewest, if you remember. He might have
no, it's before that. Even before that, this company was called Wang. Yeah.
Hence, we're back to the Japanese philosophy.
Yeah. So that company got taken over by a company called Kerridge, and he worked his way up to become a director at that company.
Is that Kerridge Computing?
Yeah. Ooh. Don't tell me you know that.
Do you know what? This is another bit for Dan to cut, but an ex-girlfriend many years ago, Carolyn Bennett, her dad owned Kerridge Computing, and they gave me £1,000 to go to the Bristol Theatre School.
Wow.
So it's thanks to them.
I do know who you're talking about.
Dan, you'll know what to do. He's my podcast editor. So sorry, I just couldn't resist. I know exactly where it was as well.
So he worked all the way up to become a director of that company.
Yeah.
And then in my school holidays, I think this is because I was a little bit troublesome as a young child. In my school holidays, my dad would take me to go and work there.
Yes.
So I used to sweep the workshop at the back, and I worked myself all the way up to doing packaging of computers that went out. And then later on, when I was a bit older, they trusted me building computers in my summer holidays. So wow. I've always had a hard work ethic that's come from my dad.
Yes. And your dad no longer with us?
Yes, yeah, still around.
Hurrah,
yeah.
Dad. Yeah. Sorry, I was just going for where, because the grandparents, are they still with us?
No, they're not around. Yeah.
So wonderful that your dad's still here to remake the Kerridge connection. I can't remember the name of Carolyn Bennett's dad.
No, it's the surname I remember.
Yeah.
I forget names all the time anyway. It'll come to me. But yeah. So there is a
small
link
world wouldn't want to hoover it, as they say. No. And then when your granddad's made a hoover out of something dangerous, that's great.
And then my wife's been quite a big influence on me as well, because although I'm sat here talking now, and he's going to chuckle at this, I'm not a particularly talkative person in around people in groups. I'm a
more of a spectator.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I've always, before I join a group and become part of it, I'm a very sit back and assess who's who. And I do that in even brief interactions with people. So I might look a bit offish or nervous. It's not. It's just I don't dive in and have a conversation, where my wife has dragged me away from that, because
she can polar opposite.
She can start a conversation with anyone. Like, she'll go into the shops and from the till come out and tell me that their nan's cousin's brother has been to Turkey for a week and tell me all about it. And I'm like, you've been in there for a minute. How do you manage that? There was one time we were driving to friends down in Weston, and I was absolutely busting for a wee driving the car. So I pulled into a garage, and we were running low on fuel as well. So it was an absolute nightmare. So I got into the garage, fueled up, and I said to her, there's no toilet, so we've got to be quick. So you go in and I'll wave at you when it's time to pay. So I've waved and I can see her at the till, and then I can see her chatting.
Oh,
and I'm like, no, come on. and she come out, and she knew all about some family member that had just been on holiday or been ill. I can't remember what it was. But again, I said, how did you get that? And she says, I don't know, people just talk to me. So that's been a big influence to make me more sociable. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a nicer bloke.
So yeah,
thanks to your mum.
See how quick he says yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You're miserable.
And just to mention your mum and your wife,
Emily.
Yeah.
So she's still a big influence on that as well, because she still says, come and talk to these people. Or I think being in the police as well makes you very, I know it does, it makes you wary about the whole world around you.
Yes.
So then you don't trust anyone.
Yes.
Or anywhere. So she's very good at noticing when I've gone back into that, and drags me out of it. So
wonderful.
I used to be the person that if you go into a restaurant, I've got to sit with my back to the wall so I can see everyone who comes in.
You're doing the Bourne Identity.
Yeah. Like a really rubbish version of that. Yeah. But yeah, she's brought me out of that now, and I don't feel the need to be watching what every single person's doing in there. And I do now have conversations with people, and she does take the mick sometimes. She said, "Oh, had a conversation with them, did you?" I started chatting to people, and like, yeah.
So you've got a people whisperer and a landscape whisperer in what's going on.
Yeah.
I think that's your shapeages. Is that right? So now it's my structure, but I was sometimes getting lost with the numbers. And now it's 3 things that inspire you. Good luck interpreting how 2 of you divide 3 by 2.
Well, I'll do the first ones. What inspires me is seeing all the successful, not just landscapers, like building companies on TikTok and all of that. Someone like, I don't know if you heard of him, Lawn Stripes and Hedges. Mark Marshall, he's very good at it, and he's very successful now. So he goes to America and stuff and does all these different events. So hopefully one day in the future, that's sort of what I'll be doing. That's what keeps me going. And
have you got in touch with them to tell them that you admire them? And
no, I haven't. But
you can always,
probably should do.
People love it when you blow a bit of happy smoke, and they'll help you with anything. So.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So that's what keeps me driven.
So you've got super ambition as to, are you on Instagram quite heavily at the moment?
Yeah. We've got Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, all of it.
We'll mention your handles at the end as well. I promise. Yeah. That's great. And what was that? Something in stripes? You said it.
It was Lawn Stripes and Hedges.
Lawns, Stripes and Hedges.
Yeah.
See what he's doing there. That's great. Great. Thank you for that. Next influencer.
So my music is quite a big one for me. So I use it to, be motivated to do something. I go to the gym. I use it in the office quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm in my own on the office quite often, and I've got an office playlist of kind of.
So give us 3 tracks on the playlist.
Oh, I'm not entirely sure because they're all dance music.
Oh, okay.
So I was into dance music when I was at school, so that's still stuck with me. So I do like all types of music, but dance music I use for the gym and for working.
And any particular favourite one? Because my podcast editor Dan is brilliant at texturing in music whenever someone mentions it.
Anything from kind of the Ibiza times in the late 90s. So Born Slippy, Insomnia by Faithless. That is a very, very good track. So I do use dance music for working and for going to the gym.
And now listen in awe as there's a little texture of that track. Thank you, Dan. You've weaved your magic. Awesome. Yeah. Brilliant.
So that's a big influence. Foo Fighters is my kind of favorite band.
Yeah.
Dave Grohl is a brilliant storyteller within his music. and he's got his own autobiography which he narrates as well. That's a really good listen. But yeah, Foo Fighters is my favorite band. But yeah, music really does influence me quite a bit and help me relax, or helps me get motivated as well. And the other one is kind of businesses that are kind of disruptive type thinking. Like this is going to sound really simple, but Uber you can rate the driver, and the driver can rate the customer.
Yes.
How good is that? So, in landscaping, we get rated, but it doesn't always go the other way around.
Yes.
So in a business, it's a different business.
That's about being selective about who you want as customers as well, isn't it? Which
exactly.
Is the thing.
Yeah. So Uber, if someone's got a low rating, I guess they bounce them off the app, and you can't order an Uber anymore. So I think little things like that.
Yeah.
They're really
happy disruptors.
Yeah. It's
For
just
the
taken
betterment
something
of everyone.
What's always been done.
Yeah.
And just changed it slightly. And then when you see that change, you think that's obvious.
Yeah.
Why didn't anyone do that before?
Yeah.
But it just takes someone.
And they've disrupted the world in all sorts of seismic ways, Uber, because the whole world of how you get a lift anywhere is totally transformed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
There's another one. There's an insurance company. I can't remember what it's called. I did write it down. Lemonade Insurance. So they use AI to underwrite insurance, so assess the risk, and anything left over. So if it does it constantly, so rather than beginning of the year, this is what the risk is, you're going to pay this, it assess the risk continuously. So if there's anything you overpaid, it goes to a charity that you've selected.
Wow.
I was just think that's really
really
good. It's using AI, so it's embracing.
Do you use Lemonade yourself as an
no,
insurer?
No, I don't.
You just admire them from afar.
I haven't quite found the right thing to use them for yet.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was a really brilliant way of change. Like, insurance has been the way it is forever, and they just sort of just changed it a little bit. So
disruptors
those
are
things
inspirations.
Influence me.
And now we're on to the, this is borrowed from the film Up. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Where the dog goes, oh, squirrels. So these are your squirrels of distraction. Just going to chuck a squirrel at you. Oh, put that back up. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what would you say your two monsters of distraction? Nigel Botterill in Entrepreneur Circle calls them his shiny object syndromes. But what would you say?
You find this funny doing this?
Yeah, this is brilliant.
So I get loads of random thoughts in my head, like different, well, they call them stupid questions, but I keep coming up with things. There's one of them you keep finding funny, don't you? I suddenly come out of nowhere once and ask, do dogs laugh? I keep getting random silly thoughts like that.
So your own squirrel is what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm
just
my
random
own squirrel.
thoughts in your own head.
Yeah. And,
Ruben the squirrel.
Yeah.
We'll call that squirrel. Henceforth, he will be known as Ruben.
That's me. Yeah. And I just keep coming out of stupid questions, and it keeps you entertained.
Yeah.
There's other things like what colour is a mirror, random stuff like that. So yeah, I'm the distraction to myself, really.
Any other randoms that you can cite?
God,
There's so many. Me and my wife both say we should keep a book of the things he comes up with.
Yeah.
But like we laugh about it, but it does just show that he thinks about things critically.
I'm always thinking, yeah.
So it makes him, he's a really good problem solver, which is brilliant in the landscaping, because he kind of calms me down, because I'm a bit of a stressor. And then because he's young, he's still very laid back and relaxed. So I'll be like, how are we going to do this? Oh, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And he's like, it'll be fine.
Just tell you to shut up, don't we?
Yeah, pretty much.
And in all my episodes, no one ever has described themselves as being their own squirrel. So congratulations, that's the first. And I like that.
Yeah, I am my own squirrel.
That's the book title. Hello, I am my own squirrel by Ruben Millett. And conversely, Nathan squirrel?
So mine's views of nature. So kind of anything like that. So that has come from my PTSD and my counselling. You know, I've found what kind of calms me. So I've seen horrendous things, and some of the tasks we've had to do have, you know, still haunt me now. So it's not gone. So I still have moments where I'll drive past somewhere and think, right, we dealt with that there, or
there's almost like a map in your mind of previous trauma, I suppose.
There's one particular job, and there's a few of us that have the same trigger for this job, and it's a windsock, which sounds ridiculous because it was nothing to do with what we were doing. It was just next to a location of a really horrific car accident. There was multiple vehicles. And then so we've done the recovery of bits of people, so that there's some sort of dignity in what families have got left behind. And that there was a windsock next to it. So oddly enough, there was a job we were doing. I didn't tell you about this. The job we were doing in Bath with the gravel path.
Yeah.
For some obscure reason, in the neighbour's garden is a miniature version of a windsock.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing this path, and I think, what is that noise? I can hear like ching ching of metal against a pole, and I look up, and there's this windsock. So then that's taken me back to this, you know, not only is it a horrendous incident, but then what we had to do within it is, you know, people don't understand that was a role that the police do. You know, and it's just ridiculous how yeah, I won't go into it, but
that's very profound what you're saying.
It's tough. You know, it's tough to.
So PTSD is something that stays with. It's not something you can just get over.
Yeah. You don't just get over it. And when you think you're doing okay, you could be in a garden
triggered by a windsock,
doing landscaping, and then for some random reason, someone's got a mini windsock in their garden.
Yeah,
and you take them back there instantly.
Yes.
And I think part of my problem having a creative mind is that, and I found this through the counselling, is I can produce an 8K video image in my mind.
Wow, not just 4K.
We're yeah.
8K.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just remember that. It is. I'm no longer building a planter bed, which is fun and relaxing. Just from seeing a wind, I am in a white suit, blue gloves on a motorway.
That makes complete sense.
Recovering bit. So I need something to take me out of that, and that is, I've refined it, and it is as simple as stop looking at the windsock, turn around, look at the tops of those trees, sun's out, blue sky, stop, listen, I can hear birds singing, and that, you know, that takes me out.
And then ultimately, I suppose, if you go really macro, you go back to your clearing, which is the fence, the cactus, the blue sky.
Yeah. So sorry. So I can create happy places pretty much wherever I am, as long as there is nature there. So that takes me out of things, and I think I was a bit like that when I was in the police as well, because a lot of the tasks we do, so we covered the entire force area. So a lot of the tasks we did were, you know, the entire force area of Avon and Somerset. So we drive around in the vans that you see, you know, team of 6 or 7 of us. You go and do something that might be pretty stressful or horrendous, and then there'd be an hour and a half drive back. And I always found myself, this is going to sound really basic, just sat staring out the window, because driving through Somerset is actually pretty beautiful. But I would just sit and stare out the window at something that I think the basis of it is something that is pure,
uncorrupted,
untouched by humans,
unspoiled. Yeah.
Because, you know, I kind of got myself to a point where humans are bad, because you see the worst of people, or the worst that can happen to people. So you try and avoid that. So
yes,
yeah, I think lots of times we would have gone and done something that was horrible. Where do I put it? It gets shuffled to the back of your mind, ready to come out years later, and then stare out a window at the countryside of Somerset
as a default, as a factory set.
Exactly. Control Alt Delete.
Yes, Control Alt Delete.
Yeah.
Lovely. That's back to carriage computers.
Right, yeah. You could, yeah. If in doubt, turn it off and switch it back on again.
Yes. If only we could do that with many people we know. Yeah. Only kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're on to the one quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know about you until you tell us, and that will be the end of shaking the tree.
you couldn't really think of one, could you?
No,
So
I've got a very unusual one
go on.
about my toe.
Yeah, go on, tell him that one.
So my middle toe is longer than my pinky finger. That's an unusual fact.
That's very freaky. Are
Yeah.
we going to whomp your leg
Well,
on the table?
yeah,
and show?
There's not time to do that. You
No.
don't want to see
You
it.
don't
No.
It's
So-
true though.
Middle toe longer than your pinky finger.
Yeah, which my friends find very funny about. I'm sure they'll be watching this and laughing now.
Excellent. That's that again. No one's ever said that before.
Yeah,
So you,
that is unusual.
that's unusual. And now,
I've got a GCSE in pottery.
awesome. Do you want to tell us any more about that?
That came about because so I did GCSE art, and the art teacher was quite strict, very old school. So I went to quite an old school type school.
You've
That's
gone
not
all
the right
you've
phrase,
gone all
is it?
philosophical.
An
but-
old-fashioned type school with some old teachers that were very strict. I don't think things like caning had disappeared that long before I'd got there. So I thought, oh, brilliant, I can do art, because that's where I kind of flourished a little bit, because I've recently learned in my 40s I'm actually dyslexic, which explains a lot about how I grew up and what I was like at school, which I wish I knew at the time, because it would have explained a lot, and I think I might have been a bit different.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think if I describe myself how I was at school and young, someone would probably say that might be ADHD. I do recognize some of the symptoms in that in myself. So I was quite disruptive at school. I got kicked out of 2 junior schools. Yeah.
Early age disruptor. That's
Yeah.
good.
I think I just struggled with school in general,
Yeah.
and then was a bit of an outcast as a reason of it. And then my way of dealing with that was kind of just being disruptive.
And then being a potter.
Yeah. That then led on to a meeting with my headmaster at my junior school, who he didn't like me. He told my parents I would never amount to anything. Yeah, which he kind of had a point at the time. So they then decided, well, I think my mum decided, I'll show you.
Very much like that.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. So they then paid for me to go to private school for my last 2 years of junior school. And so I need to say, for the couple that ran that school, Mr. and Mrs. Lawson, I don't know if what they're doing now. They don't run the school anymore, but this was a school called Cleve House in Knoll. They just showed some love and patience with me.
You often hear that about foster parents as well, don't you? The idea
Yeah.
that you've just got to show a bit of unconditional love.
And then, so they got me to a point of a disruptive kid who just got into fights and caused trouble.
Pottery.
To pottery, yeah. to the point where at the end of primary school year, I don't know what that is now, year 6.
Year 6.
Year 6. I was 3rd in the class, and I'd passed my 11 plus to go to some of the Bristol private schools, which I think my dad was then gutted about, because then he had to pay some more money. I got scores that got me a scholarship as well. So that's how I ended up at an old-fashioned school. I went to QEH in Bristol.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's how I ended up at that type of school. But then I'd left Mr. and Mrs. Lawson and gone into this big, wide world of secondary school, private school. And I think I slipped back into dyslexic, possibly ADHD.
Yeah.
You're not very clever. The only thing you do is sport and a bit of art. So then that's how I flipped back into that. Right, I just do sport. I'm not that clever. Fine. So I didn't really get much out of school other than a B in GCSE pottery.
Lovely.
Because that pottery teacher, similar to Mr. and Mrs. Lawson, showed me a bit of patience and a bit of understanding, and didn't give me any restrictions on what I should be doing for GCSE pottery. She just went, you make what you want.
And I sincerely hope Mr. and Mrs. Lawson are somewhere out there listening.
I hope so,
because
yeah.
that's a wonderful
Yeah,
way
they
to get
did
that sort of, you made all the difference.
They did a fantastic job for someone who was a bit of an issue. So thank you to them.
Okay, so Nathan and Ruben Millett, we have shaken your tree. Hurrah! Next, we stay in the clearing, move away from the tree, and now we're going to talk about alchemy and gold. When you're at purpose and in flow, what are you absolutely happiest doing in what you're here to bring to the world?
I love problem solving. So when any problems come up in work, say for like if there's a deck in and there's a slight angle that's come up, I love just sort of figuring out ways around stuff. Or all the time, if I'm doing something, I'm thinking, is there a faster way of doing this? Is there a stronger way of doing this? So that's what I'm sort of best at, really, aren't I?
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing that a lot. So
what an asset. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
For any social grouping, that's an asset. You know, come the zombie apocalypse, we'll need people like that, basically.
Yeah.
And it's not that far away, is it, the zombie apocalypse?
No.
And your answer to that?
So mine is the designing element of it and making that emotional connection with people. So although I said I'm not that great in conversations, the moment I'm stood in someone's garden and start talking about designs, themes, what is their inspiration, what do they want from it, and I start to understand how could they emotionally connect to this garden and make their life better. And that sounds dramatic, but how many people are out there, got a busy job, maybe got young family, so life is stressful enough. Where do you go and sit outside, and where's your reset? Where's your Control Alt Delete space in your garden? And that's the bit.
So you're curating clearings for other people, to use my own vocabulary.
Yeah. So that's the bit I really love doing, and I feel that's what I should be doing, and that's what I'm good at.
And to your own copy within the Naru landscaping website, it's more than gardens, it's outdoor sanctuaries to support your well-being.
Yeah.
And then I love how clear your LinkedIn profile as well. We're going to point people to that too. Wellness gardens for professionals suffering with stress. So there's a sort of a deep connection to the spiritual. It's holistic, basically. Holistic. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, I know we call it wellness gardens. It doesn't have to be the entire garden made over. It could be as small as one seat with some sort of planting, maybe a water feature nearby, or something that has got texture, a sound to it, that you can sit there, have a coffee either after work or in the morning before you go, and just have that
lovely
moment that I get.
It's almost a shut off space, and just to lock everything else outside.
So I love that within the design there is the deliberate intention to give them that precious spot within it.
I want to give people what I found helped me.
Yes.
And got me to the point where I now live with PTSD. It doesn't rule me.
Yeah.
I just live with it, and I notice it now and again, and I got things to do around that.
And in terms of your typical clients, are you getting over approaches from people who completely get that whole cut and thrust and are getting in touch with you with stress to say, this will help me?
A mix, I think because it's something slightly different, people aren't quite aware of what it is yet.
Yeah.
Which I'm hoping they'll be more aware of it
after this
soon.
That's the idea.
But what we tend to get is people who they thought they wanted normal landscaping.
Yeah. And
then I start to talk to them about, what about this type of space? If you sat here,
yes,
I kind of put them there. So if you sat here, this could happen. Those types of things. Or I always kind of design and advise from the emotional connection. So I've described a solo seat. This is very calm, and you should be doing yoga in front of it. It's not all about that. What could be your reset is sat down with family.
Yes.
So an outdoor kitchen and dining area.
Yeah.
That could be a wellness space, because your reset
of itself, it's not woo-woo. It's actually really just natural. It's just holistically healing.
It could be your reset is to sit down and just let family be and sit and listen to them and those types of things.
And again, just the pragmatism of it being called Naru because of Nathan and Ruben, but backed up now by happy, profound accident by the Japanese and the Nigerian philosophy.
Yeah.
This is awesome stuff. And now I'm going to award you with a cake. Hurrah! So this is a dog's toy. So again, don't eat it, but that's the cake. Do you like cake, the pair of you?
Yes.
a little bit too much. Yeah.
When this explodes into being, I have met a company in Bristol called Anna's Cakes. Guess what she makes?
I think we follow them. We follow them. On
And
Instagram.
if you're out there, Anna, we're going to get to a point where you'll definitely get the cake. But for now, it's a virtual cake. Sorry about that. But what's your favourite type of cake?
Victoria sponge.
I like you.
Nice and simple.
Yeah, mine's the same.
Agreement again, gentlemen.
Right, I'll change it then. Lemon drizzle.
Have you thought of going into business together?
We should.
Not yet.
So you now get to put a cherry on the cake, which is stuff like, what's a favourite inspirational quote that's always given you sucker, first of all, and pulled you towards your future? So favourite quotes?
Mine's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So that's why I always say just yes to everything, really, don't I?
Yeah.
Starting a business, I just said, yeah, why not? Because worst that can happen is it don't work out.
Say the quote again. It's great. This is reincorporation.
Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Proper philosophy, that is. I remember when I first met you, Nathan, as well, you went home, so I'm going to ask Ruben about the podcast. You obviously said yes straight away.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It is.
And
Yeah.
I didn't know whether that was going to be a tough ask or not. But
I thought it would be.
okay.
And he was like, yeah, I'll do that.
He's a pussycat. We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your own quote?
So I've got two different ones. I'm going to read because I keep forgetting the exact words of this one. But so this one came from Dwight Eisenhower, so US president, and was a war general before that. So in preparing for battle, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. So I really like that because I found through the police, you can't go into anything, so not battle, but you can't go and do a task without a plan. But the moment you start that task, you have to be adaptable because that plan will not go as you wrote it on a piece of paper because life isn't like that. So I really like that. And I found that from reading the Book of War, which I was doing in some preparation for rugby coaching. And then I found that and I thought, I really like that. But there is a very simple version of it by Mike Tyson. Every man has a plan until he gets punched in the face, which is very simple, but it's the same thing. You can have a plan until the point you start doing what you're supposed to be doing, getting punched in the face, and then you have to adapt. And that plan might completely go out the window. You might find your way back to it when you're lost, but you've got to have a plan.
And I wonder if AI would now interpret that quote by somebody called Tyson Eisenhower.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Or Mike Eisenhower.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Now, with the gift of hindsight, and this is going to be an interesting question, I know. With the gift of hindsight, what notes, help, or advice might you proffer, different ages that you are, to a younger version of yourself?
Well, it's quite difficult for me because I still am my younger self now, but
Yeah, you did struggle coming up with this one, didn't you?
yeah, I suppose just keep going, really, isn't it?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's pulling you forward as well.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Just
Yeah.
keep going. My favourite quote from Finding Nemo is the Dory the fish going, just keep swimming,
Yeah.
swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
Yeah.
Bizarrely, that quote got me through the pandemic.
Yeah, it's good advice. Yeah.
Brilliant. And so now we're going to ramp up shortly to talk about other question, Captain's Log Supplemental. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given by somebody else? We know you had some crap advice from your careers advisor.
Yeah.
But what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given by somebody else?
We've got one each, haven't we?
Yeah, mine's measure twice, cut once.
Proper craftsman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've made that mistakes way too many times, and now I measure 3 times. So
Do you know, I'm an over DIY turnip, and I don't
Yeah.
usually use the word turnip. It's got an F and a W in it. Wit. DIY. So that's a great quote from a proper craftsman, a man who belongs at the coalface of holding the tools.
Mine's quite a strange one. So this has come from an old police colleague, Dale. I won't say his full name because I don't know what job he's doing now, so I don't want to give too much away. So Dale was, you've got a person in a group who's always really quiet, but the moment they say something, everyone stops and listens, or it's the funniest thing you've ever heard. So this was Dale, very dry sense of humor, but also very switched on, logical in the way he thought. So he didn't say a lot, but when he did say something, it was absolute gold. So as you can imagine, with 6 or 7 police officers that spend 8 to 10 hours at least a day, you start to moan about a few things, start to put the world to rights. And he used to say, whilst we're talking, are peaks and troughs. And I kind of let this go for a few weeks until eventually I turned and went, what are you on about, peaks and troughs? And he was saying, if you think something's going wrong and you think you're in a peak, you think you're in a trough, you might not be. You might be on a peak and things could get a lot worse. And I was like, yeah, I see that. And he said, and when you think things are going well, you've got to be prepared. There's going to be a trough. So when you think you're on a peak, there's a trough coming. So you've got to be prepared for it. And it was a moment of just silence whilst I fathomed it out and tried to apply it to different scenarios. And I was like, yeah, that does work. Yeah. So that has always stuck with me. There's not much of an explanation to it. It is just peaks and troughs.
And attribute it to who again? Who said it?
Dale.
Dale.
His first name was Dale.
And peaks and troughs.
Peaks and troughs. And I still use it now. So if I'm thinking, oh, this ain't going right, or I'm moaning about something, I just say to myself, peaks and troughs, and then crack on with it.
Great philosophy.
Yeah.
And now we're ramping up to Shakespeare in a moment to talk about legacy. But just before we get there, we're going to reincorporate now the pass the golden baton moment. They don't like it that one, Mr. Mannering. But who would you most like, having experienced this from within, to pass the golden baton along to keep the golden thread of the storytelling going?
So mine is Matt Shepherd. So we mentioned him earlier. So rugby coach of mine when I was 22 to about 25, I think. And at that age, you think you know everything.
Easy target.
Yeah.
Not at that age yet.
So I think I was fairly difficult to coach. Rugby, which is ironic now because I coach rugby and I can think of those people that were me, difficult to coach. So, and when he offered me a job, the first thing I said was thank you. And I need to apologize to you to perhaps how I was when you coached me. But he said, no bother. So his story, he was a teacher. And I think he got fairly high up in teaching. At one point, he ran the Bristol Bears Academy.
Yeah.
So he's done very well. And then I think he got despondent with the world of teaching, found it particularly stressful. And then had a moment of stuff this, I'm going to do something else, what I know about. So he started a company called Switch Rugby. So they run camps and training sessions for, I think it's now 11 to 15-year-olds, boys and girls. And that is kind of development camps to get them into rugby in the first place, but also get them up to a standard that if they wanted to go down the route of Bristol Bears Academy, Bath Academy locally as well, then they've had the input of what is expected of them, and their skill sets are at a level where they could probably achieve that. They're really, really, really good camps, and I enjoyed coaching on those. And also he runs another company called Strata Professional Development, which is kind of leadership coaching within business, that type of thing. So he's now using all of his experience from teaching and the level he got to in teaching and all his rugby into his own business. And I think he'd probably have a pretty good story of how he got there.
Wonderful. Just say his name one more time. I forgot to write
Matt Shepherd.
Matt Shepherd.
Yeah.
Does he know I'm coming for him?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. I haven't even told him that I was going to say his name. So
you picked him up quite a lot, so you ought to say yes, which is great.
Yeah.
Did you have someone as well? You don't have to.
Well, no, but I agree with what Dad said. Matt
What
Shepherd.
he said.
Yeah, what he said. Yeah, he's a good bloke and have a good story.
Wonderful. So we're going to do Shakespeare in a moment, but just before we get to the Shakespeare to talk about legacy, and I want to do your QR codes, please. So our wonderful Courtney is the technician in the background, and this is your QR code. So first of all, this is the Naru landscaping.co.uk website. So just tell us, for those that are watching, you can scan the QR code now, but also just talk us through the path to how to get there. Where can we find you on the internet?
So narulandscaping.co.uk. You can go there and you can get in contact with us. There's a contact form, and you can have a little look about what we do and how we can help you. But if you think you need any sort of help, advice, get in contact with us and we can help you out. Also, we are Naru Landscapes, ES on the end, on Instagram and Facebook as well. So go on there, have a look at what we do. There's some videos of us kind of behind the scenes type stuff as well, so you can see who we are, and then you can message us on there. That seems to be the way that everybody works these days. Have a look at stuff on Instagram. I like that. Message, and it kind of bypasses all the old-fashioned business ways of getting in contact with people. So I really like it. It's really easy.
And I enjoyed researching. You've got some great reviews. I can't remember whether they're Google reviews, but all intention to detail and craftsmanship in every aspect was meticulous. So you are really good. We know that. And so go look there. There's also a connect with Nathan Millett on LinkedIn as a QR code coming up. So where can we find you there?
Yeah, just search my name, Nathan Millett.
Clues in the title.
Yeah, 2 T's on the end. And then, yeah, that's kind of directed towards the business to business stuff we do, or business to other working professionals.
Yes.
Because that seemed to fit LinkedIn a little bit better.
So go and find these awesome people on the old interweb. And now, inspired by Shakespeare, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. I went to the Bristol Theatre School, so I'm being a bit sort of slightly theatrical poncy now. But borrowed from the 7 Ages of Man's speech, how when all is said and done, the word you'll most like to be remembered.
I find this question really difficult, because how do I say this? I don't see myself as someone who anyone should be interested in, to leave anything behind for someone else other than my family and my kids. So my legacy that I would be happy with is they've picked something up from me that is positive, whether that's in how they behave, how they think of people, how they see the world. Do they get to see enough of the world? I think young people are a little bit too stuck in, I've got to get a job, I've got to get this, I've got to go to this college and stuff like that. There is a world out there that is pretty amazing. Some of it is a bit risky and a bit dangerous, but it's only a small percentage of it. So go out and see the world, go and find out what are people like, learn how to get along with people, learn how you don't get along with people. That's a skill as well. So that, I think, just life lessons to my kids, that'll be enough for me.
Love that. Thank you. Just let that hang there.
Yeah.
And now, Ruben?
Mine's sort of going back to my quote, is you miss 100% shots you don't take. So I just want to be remembered as someone who just done anything that was thrown at him, be a yes man, and just get through life like that.
And come the day when there's a gravestone saying you miss all the shots, they'll assume you missed one. That's why you're there.
Yeah, you missed 99% of the shots.
Oh, we missed one. None of us are getting out of here alive. So obviously someday that can be the comedy that gives somebody a giggle, and that's our legacy. That's the point. That's good. Yeah. So as this has been your moment in the sunshine in the Good Listening To show, Stories of Distinction and Genius, is there anything else, Nathan and Ruben Millett from Naru Landscaping, you'd like to say?
I don't think there's anything from me.
I think just ask people. Don't go out in your garden and think patio, lawn, tree, bush.
Yeah.
Think it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but just think about it slightly different, or ask us to come and help you think about it slightly different.
Is AstroTurf an option?
It can be, but your garden can work for you, and don't just go along with what has always been done. Patio, lawn, tree. There's plenty of things that can be done, and it needs to be focused on you as the person. It's your garden. You're going to live in it after we've gone, so it's got to be the thing you want.
Yes.
And the thing that will work for you and improve your life.
Thank you. Anything else to add?
I think same words again, really. I'm just sort of stealing your words if I say any more. But just make your garden what's right for you. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be the one sat in it. So, yeah.
Lovely philosophy. Couple of announcements from me. If you've enjoyed the show and you'd like a conversation about guesting too, then the show website, this could be another Courtney show, is your QR code, please. There is the website for the show, which is goodlisteningtoshow.com. This has been a founder story and sort of best of Bristol voices hybrid. And obviously what you've explored or what you've experienced is just what's happened. And then very, very excitingly, there's also a brand new, well, it's been there in the mountainscape of the goodlisteningtoshow.com all along, but there is a series strand called legacylifereflections.com, which is to record the story of somebody near, dear, or close to you for posterity, lest we forget before it's too late, using the unique storyscape of this show. So I've been Chris Grimes, a motivational comedian, broadcaster, facilitator, coach. Rob Brydon is coming to do a live theatre show version at the Redgrave Theatre here, where I'm based in Bristol, on the 5th of July at the Redgrave Theatre. Hotcakes are going like tickets. See what I did there? Nearly sold out, but there's about sort of 20 tickets left. There you go. So I've been Chris Grimes, but most importantly, this has been Nathan and Ruben Millett from Naru Landscaping. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, get in contact with us. Get us in your garden.
Get them in their garden. I love that. So thank you very much indeed. Good night.